Welcome to the Word for 2022. Today I want you to go to Psalm 107. Psalm 107 is another instructional psalm. In this psalm, the psalmist, he describes 4 different scenarios and what to do about each scenario. He gives the problem, what the hope or the answer is, and then the right response when God answers and God comes through. As we go through this psalm and each scenario, you will see something that is similar in every one. That God is the answer when they called out to Him. As the psalmist begins this psalm, he gives an admonition in the first 2 verses. He says, "Give thanks to the Lord." Why? 2 reasons. 1, for He is good and His love endures forever. And who should say that? He says, "Let the redeemed of the Lord say this." So with that beginning admonition, then he starts to share 4 different scenarios. The first scenario is found in verses 4 through 9, and he describes those that are lost with no direction in life. That's their problem. He puts it this way: some wandered in desert wastelands, finding no way or place to settle. They were hungry and thirsty, and their lives ebbed away. That was the problem. Where does the hope come from? Then they called out to the Lord in their trouble, and He delivered them from all of their distress. When God delivered them, He even gives them the answer as to how to respond. He says, "Let them therefore give thanks to the Lord for His unfailing love." The second scenario you'll read in verses 10 through 16. In this scenario, it's those that are oppressed or depressed, people that are held as prisoners from all different kinds of bondages. He says in verse 10, "Some sat in darkness and deepest gloom, prisoners suffering in iron chains, rebellious. They stumbled. They have no hope." But their answer? They cried out to the Lord in their trouble, and He delivered them from their distress. And then the response? Let them give thanks to the Lord for His unfailing love. The third scenario you will read in verses 17 through 22. In this scenario, it's those that are suffering from the effects of their own sin and rebellion. The psalmist says in verse 17, "Some became fools through their rebellious ways and suffered affliction because of their iniquities." But where is their hope found? Then they cried out to the Lord, and He sent forth His word, and He healed them. The proper response? Let them give thanks to the Lord for His unfailing love. The fourth scenario is in verses 23 through 32. Here, it's those that are caught in fear and doubt. In this scenario, the psalmist pictures men that are out on the high seas. As you read the verses here, you can even imagine the men going up and they're going down, and they're on the high seas, and their courage has melted away. But they too cried out to the Lord in their distress, and He delivered them. And the proper response for them was to let them give thanks to the Lord for His unfailing love. As we read this psalm, it's very clear that no matter what the struggle is in our life, that calling upon the Lord is always the right answer, because that's where our hope comes from. As we read this psalm, again, it is clear that God's understanding and power are limitless. Therefore, no matter what the scenario, God can give us direction in our life, and He can satisfy the longing of our souls. He can bring us out of the deepest pit, and He can break every chain and set His people free. He can forgive us of our sin and rescue us from disaster. He can heal the storm within us and all around us, and He can guide us to safety. Then the psalmist in verse 43 says this, "Whoever is wise, let him heed these things and consider the great love of the Lord." In this instructional psalm, again, it is clear that we are to give thanks to the Lord, for He is good and His love endures forever. Therefore, let the redeemed of the Lord say so. Thank you for joining the Word for 2022.